What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
I am Iron Man.
You are a toy!
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
Server Anakin! I have the high ground!
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
I'm simply saying that life, finds a way.
Welcome back to the Big Movie Boys podcast, the only podcast presented in a 4-3 format to preserve the integrity of Zack Snyder's vision. I'm your host, Jeremy Bauman, and with me as always is Ben Stitch.
What's going on out there, boys and girls?
And Bob Liebel.
What's up, everybody? You might notice it in my voice, but I'm feeling a little hungover this morning. I don't know. What about you guys?
Feeling like $100.
Yeah, I don't feel great either, Bob. And you know what? I made my first ever bet at the casino last night, a parlay. And each one of my parlay picks lost by 1 point in the NCAA tournament. So if I would have just went the other way, I would have made a lot of money yesterday.
So what you're saying is you're addicted to gambling.
I think I'm hooked. Losing all three picks has got me hooked.
That should pay you out, I think, losing all three by 1 point.
It's almost more impressive than getting them all right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should take your stub back and see if they'll give you anything for it.
I don't know why they wouldn't.
Sure, it'll work.
I'm never doing that again. I'm never gambling again.
Right. I'll see you at the casino next weekend.
Well, Bob, I might have a hangover cure for you if you're not feeling too good, because today we're going to be reviewing Zack Snyder's Justice League. But before we get into that, we're going to get into a little history of the Snyder Cut, and before we get into that, Ben has prepared our next installation of the Big Movie Boys presents Who is the Biggest Movie Boy Challenge Dual Edition. And Ben, before you jump into the rules here on whatever you concocted, just a slight tweak to how we're doing it this week. We actually know what the punishment movie is going to be. We know what movie either Bob or myself will have to watch, depending on who loses. And that movie is, thematically, I thought, on point, The Avengers. 1998's The Avengers. Whoever loses will report back next week on the adventures of John Steed. What do you think about that, Bob? Are you excited to watch The Avengers?
I think normally I would say that I guarantee victory. For whatever reason, when you sent a screenshot of the movie and it was like the cover art, I'm like, oh my god, I could see it. Like, it manifested in my mind. I'm like, I'm gonna have to watch that fucking movie. So I have almost already accepted defeat here. I have a feeling I'm gonna end up watching the Avengers because I've seen it in my visions.
Well, I'm looking forward to that, but we don't even know exactly what we're competing in. So Ben, why don't you let us know how I will be beating Bob in today's challenge?
Yeah, this one's tough. It's going to be DC trivia. I guess I'm unclear on like your guys' level of familiarity. That's right, with DC. So I don't know which one of you. Does one of you have an advantage?
Well, if it's comic trivia, then no, I've never read a DC comic book, and if it's movie trivia, then I've seen most of them once and forgotten almost all of them. So I don't feel super confident.
I'm not sure. I'm either going to do really good or really bad. I feel like I should know like a adequate amount, but that could come back to bite me. So I'm not sure. I'll either be real hot or real cold.
Who beat me last time? Was it you, Jeremy, then, who beat me? So I'll let you decide who goes first if you or Bob wants to go first.
I'll take it first.
I have 8 questions here, 4 for each of you. Here we go. First question up. Jeremy, who was the first DC superhero? Was it Batman, The Flash, or Superman?
Ooh, that's tough. Alright, so one of the only things I know about DC is that it stands for Detective Comics. And who's the world's greatest detective? It's Batman. So hopefully I'm not wrong, but I'm going with Batman.
Ooh, tough start. It is Superman.
That was the one I was going to guess until I convinced myself that I should go with Batman.
I like that. I liked your way of thinking there, Jared, but yeah, it was tough to watch you go down that road.
Not feeling good about the next 3 questions coming my way.
All right, Bob, you ready for this?
Yep, I'm ready.
Your question is, who created Batman? Was it Bill Finger and Bob Kane, Stan Lee, or Bruce Hamill and
Bill
Wayne
Finger
Thomas?
and Bob Kane.
Bob obviously knows these things then.
That's an easy one.
You gave him
Jeremy, did you
Stan
know that?
Lee as an option.
Yeah, that was an easy one.
I'm thinking
then.
of these questions as if they were me. Jerry, you might maybe this question will be easy for you there though. So we
So
got
it's
1-0, Bob.
One up me. Yeah.
Which DC villain was supposed to be terminated after their second appearance? Was it the Joker, Lex Luthor, or my new favorite, Darkseid?
I gotta go with I'm gonna go with the Joker. That seems like it would be a nice trivia fact to throw out there.
We got a tie game here now. Bob, did you know that one as well?
I knew that one as well.
All right,
I'm
Bob.
kind of shocked that I've known the first three. I'm kind of amped right now.
Okay, I got to think you won't know this one. Who was Wonder Woman originally supposed to be in a relationship with? The Flash, Superman, or Green Lantern?
Oh shit. I feel like Superman? I have no idea.
That is wrong. It was Green Lantern. Come on,
Damn.
everyone knows that one, Bob.
I didn't know that they actually had a relationship with anybody.
I would not have gotten that, by the way.
So we are tied up after 2 rounds. Hopefully we are not tied here because I don't have any extras. Next question, Jeremy, you're up. How many Superman comic books are there? 200,
Jesus Christ.
288, or 228?
Well, I own 200, but I don't know if I own all of them or not. Yeah, this is a total shot in the dark, so I'm gonna go 228, I believe was one of the options you gave me.
That was just enough time for Jeremy to look it up and get the correct answer.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
That sounds low. Doesn't that sound like all those numbers sounded low? Like,
Yeah.
wouldn't you expect there to be like 1,000?
And hey, I could be wrong.
This isn't
From my
DC
research.
trivia as much as it is Ben trivia with some DC sprinkled in there.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. All right, so Jeremy's up 2-1. Bob, you got another one coming your way, and it's all right. What year was the Justice Society started? 1932, 1940, or 1951?
I'm gonna go 1951.
Sorry, Bob. You knew those first three,
Damn.
but these last ones are coming for you.
I would have guessed the same,
What
Bob.
is it? What year?
1940.
Damn.
I guess I'm confused by that one a little bit. I know I looked these ones up. Was it not the
Like
Justice
the
League
Justice
then?
Society of America. No, I think it was originally like the Justice Society of America or something. Was, like,
Too
the
bad that
first
wasn't the
title.
question. All right, Jeremy, you can win it here, I believe. So it's
Yeah, you can.
2-1.
I'd rather send it to a tie.
We'd be fucked. If it's a tie, you guys have to arm wrestle then. We'll get in person then and do that. All right, here we go. Which is not a Green Lantern's secret identity? Alan Scott, Hal Jordan, or Connor Lewis?
Well, I know Hal Jordan is Ryan Reynolds, so knock that one off the list. What were the other two?
Alan Scott and Connor Lewis.
I'm gonna say Alan Scott was not one.
Shoot, I was hoping you'd win. It is Connor Lewis is the answer.
Damn it.
Bob,
I
we
think
can
I
tie
know
it up here.
I know a Connor Lewis. That's interesting. Is that somebody we know?
I hope not, because that was the name I made
Connor,
up.
if you're listening.
Connor Lewis, if you're listening, shout out to you.
All right,
All
now
right,
Bob
Bob.
has to throw this one so we don't go into a tie.
Fuck, this is intense.
Bob, please don't answer this right. The 1989 Batmobile was built over which make and model of a car? The Ford Mustang, Pontiac Firebird, or Chevy Impala?
I'm gonna go Pontiac Firebird.
Thank the Lord you did not get it right. It was Chevy Impala.
What?
It was a
That's so
Toyota
stupid.
Corolla. He didn't even give you the option.
Yeah, do you even remember what that one looks like? I had to look it up then. After.
That's the Tim Burton one, right? With
89,
what's his name?
I think so.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I
Michael
think that's
Keaton.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's. It looks like a Pontiac Firebird. That's why I said it, doesn't it? It's
Yeah, it
immediately what I
does.
thought of. I was like, that's got to be it. Fuck me. Damn it. All right. Well, I'm watching the GD Avengers. I guess I knew it. I manifested it.
How
Saw
long?
it in my dreams.
How long is that movie? I love when
90
they're long.
minutes. 90 minutes. I looked it up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because I knew
that's
I
not
was
too
gonna
terrible.
watch it. I knew I was gonna have to watch it. It's also on HBO Max.
Oh, very, very
That's not
fitting.
too terrible.
HBO Max has
I
both
almost-
the Avengers and Justice League on it.
I almost started it last night when I was drunk. I was like, I'm gonna have to watch this movie anyways.
Well, we can look forward to Bob's review of the Avengers next week. I'm very excited to hear about that one. But we're going to get into the Justice League a bit here. we watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. Have you guys seen Joss Whedon's Justice League, aka the Justice League, prior to your viewing of this movie?
Is that a thing?
No, I have not. Yeah.
That's the theatrical cut. It got the
gotcha.
nickname Justice League for Joss Whedon.
That's good fun. I love that nickname a lot. But no, I never saw it.
Are you guys familiar at all with the lore behind the Snyder Cut? How we even got to this point?
I knew that I didn't know that it existed. I know that it was something that people used to talk about. Like I saw it on like Twitter and YouTube, like maybe a couple years back. People are like saying like, yeah, there is a cut of this movie that was finished by Zack Snyder that just like didn't get released, and there's allegedly all these scenes and stuff that got cut from the movie. Then I don't know. That's what I knew about it. I knew like kind of like the myth about it.
Yeah, that's where I kind of come in too. That I just knew that it existed, but I got to be honest, I didn't. I just assumed he was also the director of the theatrical one too, and like it went bad. Like I really did. So then why is that one Joss Whedon's?
Well, I got a little bit of a history we can get into, but
hit me with it.
So this is just coming from Wikipedia. Justice League, released by Warner Brothers in 2017, suffered a difficult production. Its script underwent major changes before and during production between 2016 and 2017. In May 2017, Snyder stepped down during post-production following the death of his daughter, and Joss Whedon was hired to finish the film, completing it as an uncredited director. Whedon oversaw reshoots and other changes that incorporated a brighter tone and more humor, and cut the runtime down significantly in accordance with a mandate from Warner Brothers. The theatrical Justice League received mixed reviews and was a box office bomb, leading Warner Brothers to reevaluate the future of the DCEU and focus development on individual films. So yes, Joss Whedon came in late into the production during, like, everything had been shot. He reshot some stuff, and then him kind of under the direction of Warner Brothers executives as well, kind of bastardized the whole movie, and you can definitely tell when you watch it. I've only seen it once. I never went back and rewatched it because I thought it kind of sucked, and it does feel like at least two movies, if not more, that just kind of got Frankenstein together.
Damn, I wasn't aware of that. I also didn't know about Zack Snyder's daughter passing away. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean that's never a recipe for a good movie when you have somebody come in when everything's shot and kind of have to piece it all together with their like new vision of the movie. So that's funny. And you know how you mentioned that the DCEU was kind of changed because this movie was a box office bomb. I wonder if the Snyder Cut was the one that was originally released. I wonder if that would have changed it. Like maybe the DCEU would be in a different place now if that never happened.
Certainly think it's possible. I got a little bit more here regarding the Snyder Cut itself. As details surfaced about the film's troubled production and its state before Snyder stepped down, many fans expressed interest in an alternate cut more faithful to Snyder's vision. Fans and members of the cast and crew petitioned for the release of this, which they nicknamed the Snyder Cut. At the time, industry insiders regarded the release as unlikely. However, Warner Brothers decided to move ahead with it in February of 2020. In May, Snyder announced that the original cut would be released as Zack Snyder's Justice League via the streaming service HBO Max. It cost around $70 million to complete the visual effects, score, and editing, with new material filmed in October of 2020. The cut was originally planned to be released both as a miniseries and a 4-hour film, but plans for the miniseries were scrapped by January of 2021. The film is dedicated to the memory of Snyder's daughter, Autumn. Would you guys have preferred a miniseries as opposed to the 4-hour film?
Yes.
I think I would have. I think they could have done a lot like more with it then, and it actually could have been like we're seeing in like Marvel do like wonders with WandaVision, and now the new show coming out. With I just think it just would have been a better way to dive into all these characters, because the best part of this movie are with like the characters and seeing their upbringing and stuff like that. I just think it would have been better if they did that and had it be like a longer format.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I watched a miniseries when I watched this fucking movie. So
that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't think it would have changed anything. I think it would have just been the same thing broken into 4 1-hour chunks as opposed to it just all being, sequential in 4-hour movie.
I think it would have been like, I'm saying like if this was like 10 episodes and you can actually have more time with the characters, because while it is 4 hours and it's so long, like it is also rushed how they like kind of form this team and then go to beat the villain. I just think it could have been longer, and then I wouldn't have been like, fuck, I have to watch a 4-hour movie, because I obviously, I didn't watch this in one sitting. It's impossible.
Jeremy, did you?
We'll get into that in just a minute. So we'll get into our review of it here in just a moment. But like going into it, I wasn't excited for the movie, but I was very interested in it because we've, to my knowledge, to my memory, have never seen anything like this where a giant blockbuster movie comes out in 2017, and then there's this kind of grassroots movement to get a director's cut, which obviously there's been director's cuts of movies that have been released after the theatrical cut, but to have, I don't know, this much movement around it, and then for HBO or Warner Brothers to give him another $70 million. The first movie cost $300 million. So they're
Holy
almost
shit.
$400 million into this movie to allow Zack Snyder to not only reshoot stuff, but then they made a completely new score for this movie, added a lot of new visual effects because a lot of the stuff that had been shot that they then added into this movie needed visual effects done to it. So I can't think of anything else that's even close to this as far as allowing the creative visionary behind a movie to give it a second shot.
Yeah, I have to like shout out to him for getting that done. Like for like everyone making it happen. Like that part is super interesting. Like you said, Jared, I wasn't super excited about this movie either, but it is just like on its like face value, it is super interesting that this was able to come together. And 4 years later, it's not like the director's cut. Like I'm assuming usually director's cuts come out a little after, not 4 years later, and then $70 more million.
Yeah, usually with footage that was shot that was scrapped from the movie. Usually a director's cut is, additional scenes that were left on the cutting room floor for the theatrical cut. This is basically a completely different movie.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting concept. Like where this came from, I mean, is just interesting. You're right. You mentioned it. I don't think anything like this has ever been done before. I mean, I feel like it opens the door. I would like to see like this happen with more movies. Like, I don't know, is there like a Rush Hour 4 that's sitting out there somewhere? Like, is there like footage we could piece together? Can I get the director's cut of Rush Hour? Like, I don't know. It's sweet, and it's just I was excited for the movie. I was like, holy shit, like that's cool. That's a cool concept. I can't wait to see that. So I was like mildly interested, and then I saw the runtime. That went out the door pretty quickly.
Yeah, you guys have this whole hang up over runtime, but I don't know.
I'm sorry, Jared, but when it gets to be 4 hours long,
If one of you sons of bitches even mentions the Lord of the Rings being long in this, we're gonna have fucking beef on site. Lord of the Rings is good, so it can be 3 fucking hours long. This movie sucked.
Let's have this conversation then, because one, I think it's cool that this movie is 4 hours long on a streaming service. Obviously, there's like, logistical reasons why you don't make a 4 hour long movie that goes to theaters. Although this is in theaters as well, but obviously with the pandemic, it's not as big of a factor.
Shit for brains to go see this movie. Who would sit in the theater for 4 fucking hours? Also got to factor in there's probably previews and bullshit too. So this is like a 5 hour investment.
I think there's a break or whatever, an intermission halfway through this movie in theaters as well.
Are people just walking out, not coming back?
I took about 6 of those when I watched this movie.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I think this works on a streaming service because you are at home. You can pause it. Ben can watch it over 6 months or whatever.
If we didn't do this podcast, I'd probably over 6 months.
It'd just be continue watching Justice League 25 minutes in for a year on his fucking HBO Max.
But I think it's interesting, and we can get into a big broader conversation around runtime. I don't have an issue with a runtime the way you guys do. Obviously, it varies movie to movie whether or not they earn that runtime, and we can argue whether or not this should have been 4 hours long. I'll say it probably didn't need to be.
No.
But let's get into it. Zack Snyder's Justice League was released on March 18th, 2021, written by Chris Terrio, Zack Snyder, and Will Beal, directed by Zack Snyder, of course, starring Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, Ray Fisher, Ezra Miller, and others. We've kind of started talking about it generally, but what were you guys' just kind of broad takes? I will say I was getting a little annoyed listening to you guys bitch over text message for the first couple days, but it sounds like you both kind of came around on it in the end.
No, yeah, because Bob watched this first, I think, almost, and was like an hour in, and said this movie's horrible or whatever. That's where I kind of agree. Like, I think we all kind of come in like that first hour is just kind of so slow. That's where
Dreadful.
they could have cut the most. And
Horrendous.
like after that first hour, I was like, this movie's the worst movie I've ever seen. It feels like a punishment movie.
Yeah. Oh my
But
god. Yeah.
it does get better then, because like I said earlier, like when they dive into the Flash and like Cyborg, those are the parts of the movie that I liked the most. It was just like the whole plot is what I didn't like the most, like the whole basically having to get the 3 mother boxes. Like that part of it felt like a Transformers movie. I thought Mark Wahlberg was gonna hop on screen. I was ready for it. But overall,
Oh.
like it was like a cool movie. I just don't think it was like it wasn't a good movie. It felt just more like an action movie that happened to have like comic book characters in it, and that was also 4 hours long.
I would kill a man to see Mark Wahlberg in this movie. I would immediately come around on it. But I'm going to echo what Ben said. I totally agree. I mean, I texted you guys the first hour. I wanted to fucking jump, dude. It was boring and just like not like convoluted, but like I was just like, what the fuck is going on? What are we doing? Like, what the fuck is this shit? I was just not getting into it. It was literally it was painful. I was really, really not enjoying it. But I do come around. There are some parts that are pretty cool, and it's mostly the characters. You know, Ben mentioned Ezra Miller's Flash, and then Cyborg. Cyborg to me is what fixes this movie. That's where all my enjoyment came from. His storyline, and the way they kind of like dive into like his backstory and his motives, and I really like that. You know, like that was good stuff. It was very entertaining. It was kind of heartbreaking at times, and I really think that was the best part of the movie. But that, if you were to put all the cyborg scenes together, that probably gives you like individual cyborg scenes probably gives you like 30 or 40 minutes. You know,
But don't you think they could have like fleshed that out and like had his own movie for that, like, and build the world more?
Maybe do his own movie and then cut the other 3 hours and 30 minutes of bullshit, and then we got a good movie there. But yeah, Cyborg saved it for me. I also really enjoyed Jason Momoa. Anytime that dude, more in the beginning, anytime that dude is on the screen just being a badass, I'm like, holy fucking shit, I wish I was him. He looks so cool. He looks badass when he does literally anything.
When he takes his shirt off and puts it back on 6 or 7 times in this movie.
Yeah. For no fucking reason. I don't understand that.
They had that happen with Superman too. When you come back from the dead, you have pants on but no shirt.
Yeah, and you're just there's a lot of muscular ripped moments in this movie. But yeah, it's mostly the character, like the actual characters when they sort of like go into them. I enjoy that because I love like a good origin story. I'm a sucker for an origin story. So you sort of ish get that with the Flash. You mostly get it with Cyborg. And you are kind of introduced a little bit more to Aquaman, because I'm pretty sure this was the first time he was ever on screen in the DCEU. Obviously, I've seen his movie, and I like that too. But I like that character as a whole. I like Aquaman, actually, what they do in the DCEU. So, yeah, the characters kind of steal the show for me, but the plot, the pacing, the length, all dreadful.
Yeah, the theatrical cut of Justice League predated both Wonder Woman and Aquaman. So we hadn't even had either of their origin stories prior to this. Flash and Cyborg still haven't had an origin movie, although, like you said, we kind of get it in this. So I think that does kind of benefit this cut, having seen those movies and having a little more time spent with those characters. But yeah, overall, I'm not going to disagree with you guys too much. I don't think I felt as negatively about the first hour. I agree that it's the slowest, worst part of the movie, and that's where I would cut the most out of it. Certainly doesn't need to be 4 hours based on that first hour. But I went in with basically no expectations. By the end, I'm like, did I just like this movie? I had to like come to terms with that. I was not prepared for it. I was kind of dreading it. I didn't rewatch the original Justice League because I was afraid it would make me not want to watch this movie. Now I kind of wish I did, just to see exactly where all of the differences were. But you guys both kind of alluded to it. I think my biggest criticism with this movie, which is the criticism about the DCEU, is that this movie is three movies in one that should have been preceded by two or three other movies at least. Like they basically try to do Avengers Age of Ultron, and like Avengers Infinity War all in this first Justice League movie without introducing most of the Justice League characters prior to it. So because of that, it is kind of a mess.
Just to piggyback off that, Jared, that's a great point because they obviously see what's going on with Marvel and just how like amazing they have created their world. It feels like they're just trying to catch up in one movie.
I was just
Whereas,
about to
like,
say
instead
that.
of
They're playing
trying
catch
to
up.
like, yeah, instead of just like let these people have their own movies, build the world, and
Take
then
your
you
fucking
can
time.
have the Justice League movie. Like, it doesn't make sense to have the Justice League movie and then all the origin stories. It's really
They're
a
doing it
bad way
backwards.
of trying to play catch up. Exactly.
They're doing it backwards. Marvel did it right and literally had all these movies fleshing out all these characters over all these years. And Justice League is like, we got to get our big team up movie. They have the Avengers. We need the Justice League. So they just rushed it. And they just try to give these guys the origin story while the movie is going on. And it doesn't work. This movie just does not work for me.
Yeah, by 2017, we had the Avengers Age of Ultron, and Captain America Civil War on top of the probably 10 other movies in the MCU at that point. So, yeah, their plan to catch up to that point in the MCU in one movie did not work. I think that's pretty safe to say. I think another thing that's pretty safe to say is that this movie was better than the theatrical cut. I have gone through and watched, I've been looking into reviews for this movie. Typically, I wouldn't do that until after we record the podcast, but I had to hear what people were saying about it. I had to know if I was crazy for liking this movie or not. And the consensus seems to be that this is undoubtedly an improvement from the theatrical cut that came out 4 years ago. So
I could only fucking imagine what that movie's like. If I hated this and there's a movie and this is better than the original, I can only fucking imagine what the original is like.
yeah, it was not good. And everyone agreed at the time that it was not good, and it seems like most people think that this was good. Maybe everyone's expectations were just so far below the ground that anything would have exceeded them. That's kind of what I was thinking might have been the case, but as far as I can tell, everyone seems to be pretty pro on this movie. I guess, spoiler alert, if you're worried about spoilers, I mean, the general story for the most part is the same as the original cut, so if you've seen it, I mean, sure, there's scenes that weren't in it, so maybe we'll spoil something for you, but we'll open the floodgates for whatever you guys want to talk about. Are there I don't know, we're not going to recap it the way we recap Cherry, although this does fall into 7 parts, kind of in a similar structure, but are there any particular highlights before we maybe get into some more of our criticism?
For me, it's funny because I don't know if you guys watched this as well, but growing up on like Cartoon Network, they used to have that animated Justice League show, and I fucking loved that as a kid. I literally was one of my favorite shows. That's also on HBO Max, and I have watched that since I've had HBO Max. So like, I'm not like an anti-Justice League guy. I'm not an anti-DC movie guy. I just don't think what they're doing in the DCEU is good. And when the movie's all said and done, and the fact that like the Justice League now exists, I almost had a moment where I was just like, okay, like this is kind of cool. Seeing Martian Manhunter, who, like I mentioned from the TV show, he was one of my favorite characters, and I wondered that when I saw the trailers and I saw clips from the original Justice League, I was like, why isn't Martian Manhunter there? He's in the Justice League, but that was like one of the cool parts to have him in the movie, and it's kind of interesting that it does exist, and it almost just makes me sad because it's like this could be cool, like this should be a rival to Marvel, and it's not, and it does really just make me feel sad because I love that cartoon growing up, and now we have whatever this slop is. But that's some of the highlights for me. You know,
And
Martian Manhunter being in it.
Martian Manhunter was added. It was not in the theatrical version.
I had to look that up too, which I was like, good. That's awesome. I would love to see a movie for him.
Yeah, that's a good point, Bob. Like, I was just thinking too, like the parts I like about this movie are, yeah, the characters, and when you say like DC, that should be on the same level as Marvel, if not even higher. To me, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's growing up. You like think of Batman and Superman as like the two biggest heroes. Like that
They
should
are.
be
I
the
agree.
world. That should be the world that like I feel like Marvel should try to be like right now they should try to be like DC, but DC can't get their shit together. So they have, to me, the top tier superheroes, and they can't kind of get their stuff together. But like in theory, I do like that part. Like I like the idea of them interacting. It's just it obviously doesn't come together well. But like when they do have these conversations, I liked Superman being bad and like having to kind of get him back on the team. Like I like that part.
For
I liked
15 seconds.
Yeah, I wish it would have been a little more. Like if that's like what it could have been. It could have been better. I know they had Batman versus Superman. Then all it took was Lois Lane to make him better.
That
But
hated that. I hated that part of the movie because it's just like now he's crazy, he's bad, and he literally as soon as he sees Lois Lane, he's right back to normal. Like it's just too quick. Give us a little more
Yeah.
evil Superman.
I wanted them to be able to like take Superman down. But yeah, it's just. I guess I already said like my favorite parts were just like the cyborg like growing up, like his just little story, and Ezra Miller as the Flash. I thought he was like good. I like that scene with him, the dog walking scene or whatever, the groomer scene, and then he saves that girl. I will say though, Zack Snyder loves slow motion because there was so much fucking
Oh,
slow motion.
Yes, he does.
It's
This
such a
this
weird
movie
why the
was
way.
movie's
actually
so-
2 hours and 10 minutes before the slow motion was added.
It was just funny to me because it's like the way they showed the Flash be super fast was to show him slow as hell. It was a weird way to show it. I guess the other way is to just show him be super fast and like what are you really getting there? But it was
I
just
have a
odd
huge
to
gripe
me.
with that. I have a huge gripe with the way they. So I've seen another thing. I mentioned the Justice League animated TV show. In the same like universe, there's this other movie on HBO Max called The Flashpoint Paradox. Very, very, very good. It's an animated movie as well. But the whole like Speed Force and stuff like that, I love that like we get like a accurate representation because that's sort of how it is for the Flash. It's like it's not like he's moving super quickly. It's almost like everything else around him is moving so slow. Like he goes into like a different like reality almost when he goes into like the Speed Force. And I like that they showed it in the movie because I'm like, oh, that's like kind of like accurate to the comics and like accurate to how it actually is. He sort of delved into it just like a little surface level. But the first time they show the Flash, it shouldn't be in like this way. You should have just seen him move super quick, boom, 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 like move around like the Flash. The Flash, we all know, like guy's super fast. Like show him moving, darting around, being the fucking Flash. And then later in the movie, kind of do the breakdown of how the Speed Force works and show that like everything's moving slowly around him. He's not moving like super fast. But they didn't do that, and they start with like this slow, boring, slow motion thing. Like they should have shown him fast first, and then later delve into it and like how it works. Like it was just weird to see your introduction of the Flash, first time you're seeing him, in the DCEU, and it's like this super long, drawn out, boring thing. And like I think if they had started with him moving fast and like showing him being the Flash, like the way that we would see it, like if say it was like real life, I think it just would have played better. So I hated that because I like the Flash. He's one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. So I was a little bummed about that.
What did you guys think of Wonder Woman in this movie, having only seen the abomination that is Wonder Woman 1984? I will say that her introduction scene was one of the moments where I was like, okay, this is kind of badass. I'm kind of digging this. They redid her theme and made it even more obnoxious, which I kind
Horrible.
of liked because they brought it back 12 times. It was weird, but I liked it for whatever reason. But
She fucking breathes and they play that fucking theme. It's stuck in my goddamn head. I hate
it's
it.
so good. I love it. But yeah,
I don't love that.
her coming in to stop the bank robbery, or it's not even a bank robbery. It seems like a little drastic of a side villain just to use to introduce Wonder Woman, where it's like this group of people who want to just like destroy the world or whatever, like set the world back in time. I'm like, this seems like it should have been a movie on its own. Like, why weren't these just bank robbers? Like, why can't we just show her doing something badass with a pretty low level villain? But I don't know. I mean, this whole scene I thought was pretty cool. And for the record, every time I bring up something that I like about this movie, it'll be followed up with why I thought it was also stupid.
No, that you make a good point though. Like Wonder Woman was like it was a better introduction. I feel bad because I didn't watch the original Wonder Woman, and so my only like history with her is Wonder Woman 1984. So I'm like, I don't really like her as the superhero. Like it wasn't a great movie. That's my only history with her. But then in this movie, she's like more badass. She's like basically the leader with Batman. Like her and Batman together are just the leaders, and I think she's fucking badass in this movie. So I wish it makes me just wish they never came out with 1984 because it was such a bad movie. But she was good in this movie, I thought.
Yeah, she was kind of refreshing. I enjoyed her character a lot as well.
I also like that. I don't remember exactly how it happens in the theatrical cut, but I don't think that she crosses her armbands or whatever and evaporates Bolton from Game of Thrones or whatever. I don't think that happened in the theatrical cut. It seemed a bit aggressive to introduce your hero with her just like absolutely vaporizing this dude instead of doing something maybe a little more heroic. But that was a choice.
Definitely was a choice. And thank you, Jer, for I could not think of who that guy was, and the random villain who wanted to just kill everyone, I guess. But I did not. I forgot he was in Game of Thrones.
Another great instance of slow motion as well when she throws that bomb up, and it takes approximately 15 minutes before it explodes because we're watching it in super slow motion.
Yeah, also that was bullshit because the guy's like, it'll take out
Yep.
6 or however many city blocks. She throws it 30 feet in the air and it somehow doesn't just destroy everything. Like, that's not far enough away. You just told us how far away it had to be.
It literally
And I know it's
exploded
not.
50 feet higher than where it would have exploded.
Yeah.
No, guys, you don't get it. If a nuclear bomb just like goes off in the air, it doesn't affect anything. You're fine. As long as it's 30 feet above the ground, you're fine.
They literally told us how far away it would have to be, and then they clearly did not do it.
Yeah, she did not throw it 4 city blocks away. You are correct, Bob. Obviously, Flash and Cyborg, I'm not going to disagree. Some of the better parts of this movie definitely should have had their own origin movies before this. The Cyborg scene where he just kind of stalks this one random lady who's getting bad tips or whatever, and
gives her
losing her
100K.
apartment, and he just manipulates the banks or whatever to give her $100,000. I do like Cyborg in this movie, but the introduction of his powers and everything with his dad just narrating all of his powers while we watch him stalk this lady for a while, I didn't like any of that.
I imagine that's how actual money works in the real world. There's just a little guy that can go into his head, and there's all the money in the fucking world, right? It shows everybody's name and then how much money they have in terms of like a stack of cash. Loved that.
And I don't know, I wanted to go back and look the actual timeline, but like Cyborg's events in this movie, I feel like he goes from like mopey and depressed and emo about being a cyborg to basically helping lead the Justice League in what would have been like 4 hours in that world. Like, it's a pretty quick turnaround.
It seems like he understands his powers and like what he's capable of doing very quickly. Like when they were playing that thing, I sort of got the feeling that this was happening over like an extended period of, well, this has been like a few months. It's like he's figuring out his powers. He knows he can do this and that. But then they show him come back to the cassette player later, like an hour later. I was like, oh, that all happened in like a couple minutes in real time.
Yeah, it was, that's just the DCEU. Aquaman, I agree, better introduced. Like his first scene in this movie is better than the theatrical cut as well. I didn't like his movie. I don't particularly love the underwater stuff in this movie
It's
or
tough.
in his movie.
It's
Hard
tough
to make
because
it look good.
the way they do it is like they make this bubble of air then where they're just not underwater. So it's kind of like, why are you underwater then? I don't know.
They wouldn't need to do that if this was like real. Like they were in Atlantis and they were all fucking Atlanteans. Why nobody would do it. Like let me get the bubble out. Like that's totally just a crutch so that they don't have to animate them talking underwater.
Yeah, it was good to see Willem Dafoe though. Who is he playing? Spider-Man? What is that
Green
character?
Goblin?
Green Goblin, and then he's King of Atlantis or whatever the hell he is.
I think he's just Aquaman's buddy.
Just Aquaman's buddy.
Yeah, I don't
remember his
know
name.
what his title is.
He looks weird as an
Volko?
underwater Atlantean.
He looks weird with the long hair.
Willem
looks
Dafoe
weird
looks
as
weird
shit
in
in this
general.
movie.
Never mind.
I saw his name flash on the thing, and I was like, oh yeah, he was in Aquaman. So like maybe he's in this movie too. That makes sense. But then when this happened 2.5 hours into the GD fucking movie, and then he pops up on screen, I was like, well, I almost took a fucking shot. I was like, holy shit, he's in this movie.
Were you playing the drinking game when they said the title of each part during the part? Because you could have gotten drunk by the end of this.
Oh my god, that was just so fucking horrible.
What did you guys think of J.K. Simmons and then Jeremy Irons as Batman's sidekicks in this.
Didn't need it. I don't know why J.K. Simmons is Commissioner Gordon. I actually hate that casting, and I don't
Right?
really like
Didn't it
anything
feel
that he
off?
does. Doesn't feel right. He's not. That's not Commissioner Gordon. That was just. It just didn't feel right. Get me. What the fuck is that
Gary Oldman?
motherfucker's name? Get me Gary Oldman. I don't need J.K. Simmons.
I know,
That's
it's
that's
tough.
not my commissioner.
And like even like I get it. It's like Jeremy Irons, they're doing the different version of Alfred, but it's just like maybe I'm just forever gonna be that asshole who's like Michael Caine and Gary Oldman are like and Christian Bale. It's tough. It's
I
just
agree.
they just all feel a little bit off.
I totally agree.
I totally disagree. I like all three of them in this world.
Wow.
Like I'm not going to say they're better
Oh.
No,
than
no,
the
that's
Nolan
fair
verse,
then.
but
Jeremy,
I like
you
them.
can't say you like them without saying you're saying that you like them more and that they're better. There's no in between. You have to pick your Batman cast, and it's goddamn Christian Bale or nothing.
I think they're trying to do different. I like Jeremy Irons as Alfred. J.K. Simmons, I don't think gets enough time to be Commissioner Gordon for me to even have a strong opinion on him. I just like him as an actor. But yeah, I don't have an issue with that. I don't think the casting is bad for any of these people. I think that's one of the things that they do, one of the few things that they do well with these movies.
My thing is, it's just the Batman part of this movie, and like Batman's probably my favorite superhero, but it's the worst part of this movie. It's so off to me. It just feels like it's a totally different world. Like the reason I like Batman so much is because it's in my head it's like realistic. He's just trying to save one city and he's fighting like bad guys. And it's like people aren't trying to like kill and take over the world. They're just trying to fuck around in Gotham. But in this, he's like fighting flying aliens and like trying to stop like other universes. It's just like they're trying to make him Iron Man. It's just I need that. I just want Batman to fight the Joker and like Penguin. I just want him to fight people who are in Gotham, not try to save the whole universe. That's my biggest complaint and my biggest like. Don't try to make Batman more than what he is. You know, just let him. That's why he's so great. Oh, all right. I want your reactions to that. Do you agree?
I totally agree with you, Ben. But he does have a funny line that was actually good, where they're like, "What's your superpowers?" He's
Yeah.
like, "I'm rich."
It's
Yeah.
a good line. I mean, I agree with you, Ben, but I think they need to spend the time. They need to make the movies for that escalation to make sense. I mean,
Exactly.
Iron Man fights ISIS in the first Iron Man movie,
Yeah.
and then he's taking on intergalactic threats, 20 movies later.
And we believe it, and I buy it. Like, yeah, you're right. If they just would have taken the time and made these movies over 10 years, I think then you obviously aren't having Ben Affleck be Batman, but then it would have made more sense in my head.
But
I agree.
I mean, DCEU fumbling the bag so hard that Iron Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy are bigger superheroes now than Superman and Batman. Like, that's pretty embarrassing. I got two things left on my list that I wanted to get through. The first being the villains. No hero is as good, or heroes are only as good as their villains. What'd you guys think of Steppenwolf and Darkseid?
Steppenwolf is just not good, dude. He's just and I was reading stuff about apparently he's much more fleshed out in this version than the original. And
this is
even
a
still,
substantial upgrade from the theatrical cut.
Even still, I'm just like, you know how like there's like always like in these movies, even in like the Avengers movies, there's always like these giant armies of just disposable fucking things, and it was like the bug people in this movie. And like they're just like nobodies, like they're just there for the superheroes to beat up. I almost felt like that's what like Steppenwolf was, but like a bigger version of it. I was like, you're not intimidating. You don't feel like the big bad. They mentioned Darkseid. You know that like Steppenwolf is just like expendable. You're like, this is just like the level before I get to the boss fight. Like it just didn't. I didn't like him at all. He was wearing that goofy fucking costume that just looked. What the fuck is that? Why are you covered?
I thought he was an Orokai from Lord of the Rings.
Kind of did look like one. He's wearing tinfoil though, like fucking tinfoil all over his.
That's also new to this version, and I promise you, it looks better.
Really? Oh my god! Yeah, I looked up a picture of what he looked like in the original, and I mean, you're comparing two turds that just fucking.
This turd's shiny.
Horrible.
No, Bob, I think you make a good point though. Like, if you're gonna have like Steppenwolf just like as like he's almost the main villain in this. I know Darkseid's the bigger one. That's why you have Darkseid in this movie more than. First of all, just a
Agree.
stupid fucking name. Like, why is the name Darkseid? Like, they
That
couldn't
was
come up with
probably
it.
written in the 50s or something.
I know, but it's just like have him be in the movie more and have him be the one they try to take down. I guess they're trying to, and they must have been trying to set it up where it's like bringing him back in another movie then where he is the main villain, almost like the Thanos type. But it just feels weird. Like, why not have him in this movie more? And I think my bigger, like, you guys obviously know I don't love the Avengers movies and Marvel, but like in that, at least I understand where Thanos is coming from. Like he thinks the universe is in trouble, and he's like in his head, he's like the savior. He's like, you get his motives. In this, like, I just don't understand it. They just want to kill everyone and just make everyone a slave. I don't get their motives. It's like it feels like a
surface
scary
level.
way. Yeah, just a way to like scare children. It's like it's not gonna. I don't get it. It's not realistic to me.
It's surface level, and it just goes with like the entire plot of the movie, like these stupid fucking boxes, and like it just like not that I've seen this exact plot before, but it's just like so basic. Like he's coming here to conquer Earth, and he's got to get this object, and we're all looking for this object. Like it just, I've seen movies like this
Yeah,
before. And it's just,
you've seen Transformers, Bob. This happened already.
yeah,
They're trying to get the box.
It's horrendous, and I also got confused about the whole whatever algorithm or whatever fucking shit they were looking for that was on the Earth, and they just never really explained that. And I was like, is it the boxes that he wants, or is it the fucking what the fuck was that thing called that he was looking for?
The anti-life equation.
Yeah, he was looking for some fucking
Great
y
name.
equals mx plus b motherfucker, and
I can't believe you
like, that made
remember
no
that.
sense. Why did he like pivot midway through, and now the boxes aren't important, and now it's this shit? That made no sense. It was just fucking stupid. It was just like just a shitty generic bullshit plot that made no sense.
Yeah, like I said,
Yeah,
Steppenwolf.
defend that, Jeremy.
I really can't. All I can say is Steppenwolf is much better in this movie. I don't completely agree with you, Ben. Like, I think there's a world where, again, with more movies, when you get to this movie is when you maybe introduce Darkseid, and Steppenwolf is, ranks under Darkseid, kind of in like the first Avengers where Loki is working for Thanos. In
Right.
Guardians, Ronan is working for Thanos. Like, there's people below Thanos that kind of do his bidding in some of the earlier movies before we get to Thanos. And I think that that's kind of what they were setting up here. Like, Steppenwolf is doing the bidding of Darkseid because eventually they're going to have to fight Darkseid. I don't think it was done very well, but I think that it could have worked in a universe where DCEU didn't suck so much. And yeah, having seen now the theatrical cut forever ago and this movie, I still don't understand what their plan is, what their real motives are. I hate that these things are called mother boxes, and he keeps going around saying he can smell the mother box. I'm like, why? How did this make it through? And why do you say it 100 times?
That's
That's
a
why
great
it's
point.
That's why it's rated R.
Yeah, I didn't care for that, but oh yeah, the other thing that they change is in the Age of Heroes, when they show that big battle and they show Darkseid just getting his shit wrecked almost immediately. Like, it took almost no effort for Earth to defend it from Darkseid. Originally that was Steppenwolf getting his shit pushed in. So they completely switched that around.
I actually liked that scene.
I think it makes Darkseid look like a wimp, though. Like, if
It does,
Thanos
you're right.
is introduced in Infinity War, and after we had already seen him get his shit wrecked in a previous movie, would he have been the same threat?
No, you're totally right.
Yeah, that's very weird.
I know I said two things earlier. Actually, two things now at this point. One, Bob just reminded me of. What did you guys think of the R rating? This was there was some blood. There were some scenes where, like, the one Atlantean that gets fucking kicked into a rock, and then his brains basically start like bleeding out the back of his head against that rock. Like,
Good fun.
I,
I say it's good fun. I want to see more of it, and like in stuff like that, you know. And I like the cussing too. Yeah, no, yeah, that's always gonna get me. Anytime you cuss and show blood in a movie, I'll
that's-
always be a fan.
That's my thing, though. If you're gonna do it way more. I love when people swear in movies, and when Batman at the end of, like, I know they had like 6 different endings. We can talk about that for a minute, but like, and he says "fucking that." I was like, give me more
Awesome.
of this. I wish it
Yeah.
would have been Batman just saying "fuck" the whole movie. I would have liked it more.
for 4 hours, yeah, I could get behind that.
Try to break the F word record.
Ben, you touched on my last point. I was going to ask you about the Return of the King 7 different endings in this movie, and specifically the nightmare scene where we finally get to see Ben Affleck's Batman and Jared Leto's Joker have a little back and forth. But I don't know, pick any of the endings you'd like to talk about.
That's just such a. I know we talked about runtime and like too much probably, but it's just I'm waiting for this movie to end so I can go do stuff then. And I'm just like, oh my god, how many fucking endings do there need to be? And each one got me. I'm like, oh, it's over now. It's got to be over. And then they just go to another one, and I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? I think the Jared Leto. I said on one of the last ones, I thought he looked cool. He looks freaky in this. I thought that was all right. I mean, I obviously don't love him as the Joker, but he looked better in this. It was kind of creepy. That was the ending I didn't mind the most.
I enjoyed that scene. That was definitely the best scene in the movie. But I don't know if that's like on the movie or just that animosity and the relationship that the Joker and Batman have. They don't have to show anything. Just seeing these two iconic characters interact. It's almost like a tale as old as time. Batman and the Joker. Like you know what these guys are about. So like you could have that scene in this movie because everybody and their fucking mother knows the relationship these two have. So just to see them interact, always a cool thing to see in a movie or in any form of media. So that was great. That was really, really cool. I really enjoyed that scene. I think originally I probably would not have watched this movie if we weren't doing it for the podcast. And what I would have done is probably YouTube, like the clips that people are talking about, like the shining moments from the movie. I'd probably watch like scenes on YouTube and get an understanding of what happened in this movie. And I feel like that's probably the biggest one that people were talking about.
I thought it was interesting, yeah. I'm not a huge Jared Leto Joker fan. Suicide Squad's pretty garbage, and he's not very good in it. But yeah, this was enough to make me think, oh, I kind of want to see a movie with Ben Affleck's Batman going against Jared Leto's Joker. And I think that was kind of like my biggest takeaway from this whole movie was I was kind of bummed that the DCEU sucks. I'm kind of bummed that there's no grand plan going forward. Like Kevin Feige with Marvel knows like the next 40 years of what their movies and TV shows are going to be. I wish the DCEU had a Kevin Feige who could really plan all this stuff out and deliver these giant universes and utilize these characters the way they should be, because I think there's so much potential that is shown in this movie, but knowing that it doesn't really get executed on at all in previous or later movies is kind of a bummer.
What if he switches sides? For whatever, like, can you imagine if Kevin Feige like jumps ship and goes to the DCEU, like fucking like Hulk Hogan from going from WWE to WCW? Like, that's as soon as I thought about it. Can you imagine like Kevin Feige just totally switching sides and then just like saves the DCEU?
As long as he continues doing what he's doing with Marvel, I'm okay with it.
What about like an alternate reality? Like, can you imagine if Marvel sucked and the DCEU was good? But Ben mentioned it earlier. Like the superheroes are bigger, and like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, like that's like the quintessential superheroes. Like those are like the name value. Those are the bigger things. But in the reality we live in, Jeremy, you mentioned it too. We care about Guardians of the Galaxy, and those are cooler superheroes and better superheroes because Marvel is king and the DCEU sucks.
If I'm calling Kevin Feige out right now, if he's not a coward, then the last episode of that What If show that they're going to make or are in the process of making will be what if Kevin Feige was the executive producer for the DCEU? And it's just a Marvel show about that.
That would be incredible.
Kevin, if you're listening.
All right. Do you guys have any final thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League?
No, that's it. I don't particularly enjoy the movie. It was, I'll say it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It was the worst viewing experience I've ever had, though.
Yeah, I don't think I'd recommend this. Like, if someone was like, should I watch it? I'd be like, nah, you're good.
Look up the Batman Jared Leto Joker scene and then call it a day.
I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say watch the theatrical cut first, knock that 2.5 hours or so, then watch the 4 hour Zack Snyder cut. Make a whole week out of it.
You missed the part where you quit your fucking job because you're not going to have any time to do that.
Take a day off. You earned it. Watch both movies. Compare and contrast. I think it's a good time. All right. Well, with all that being said, boys, next week, we've been building up to it. Best of the 80s. How do we feel about it?
Did Avengers come out in the 80s?
Not 1998.
Fuck.
Unfortunately, Bob cannot choose The Avengers as his favorite movie of the decade. But we've got his review of that to look forward to next week, as well as mathematically, scientifically determining what the best movie of the 80s is. I think combined we've seen 30 80s movies between the three of us.
So we're
Yeah.
definitely qualified to comment on it.
Exactly.
I can't wait for our parents to yell at us.
I'm looking forward to that as well. As always, thank you for listening, and remember, some have called me Martian Manhunter. See you next week.